I'm Amory, and I am here with the Amory's Book Club selection for the month of August, which is Hum by Helen Phillips. In Hum, we meet May, a mother of two, the main provider for her family. Up until this point, she has, with the very cautious support of her husband, decided to undergo an experimental surgery which allows her to very slightly alter her face in slight, yet to the human eye, very discernible ways that conceal her identity from surveillance cameras. So if you think about all the cameras out there, you think about social points or is it social credit points, that kind of thing. In this near future society, people are able to be recognized and they use their face for everything. So there's still biometrics, you still have your fingerprints, but your face is also widely used to surveil society. Everyone's connected and no one's really off the grid. Even kids from a very young age are encouraged to use what they call bunnies, a device that's on their wrists that allow them to connect to the internet, watching shows, educational things, also virtual experiences. A lot of people have what they call wombs, and it's WOOM, but the sound of it sounds like a womb because it's meant to be a safe place, a virtual reality. You can do anything there. You can just watch television, you can revisit memories, anything that you could do with technologically that you would do, I suppose, on a computer, you can do in your room, and it creates a very immersive experience. So she hasn't taken her family entirely off the grid. She's only changed her face to do this experiment, and in exchange she gets a lot of money. So for this money, if one were being really practical, of course they would pay the rent and everything that they need, but she feels they always do this. They're always doing all the things that they have to do, and they very rarely, if ever, do something just for the fun of it. So she sets up a trip for her family to go to Botanical Gardens, which is within the city, but it's a place that basically makes you feel as if you are not in the city. You feel as if you're in the forest. You feel as if you're just in nature. There are mountains in the distance, waterfalls. It's a place that's within the city, walled off, but once you're in, you can't really see the walls, and it's extremely expensive. So she pays for a few days for her family to stay there. She says, let's leave the bunnies at home. Obviously they're not going to carry their wombs. I think they're pretty large devices that you go into the womb, which is like an egg-shaped thing. So that stays at home. There are no bunnies, and she even asks them to leave their phones at home. She doesn't know yet, but her husband does take his phone, which, to be fair, there is something to be said for safety. Like, you do want to be able to make a call if you have to. One could argue that back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. If you went to a phone booth if you needed help, but really aren't phone booths anymore. Although you could argue that there's bound to be someone standing within 100 feet of you that is going to have a cell phone, even if you're somewhere where there are hardly any people, like walking through a park where people are exercising. Someone has a phone. So they go to the Botanical Gardens. They have a wonderful time. We do see the tension that plays between May and her children, between May and her husband, and these don't go away because they're in the gardens. In some ways they're heightened, or at least brought to the surface, but they're having a wonderful time. So things happen during this time, and what follows in the days after is an exploration of technology, our relationships, and also what it is to live in a world where we are never completely private. There is a certain loss of privacy that we have when it comes to our lives being in the cloud, whether it's pictures, videos, etc. The things that we post on social media, just our very existence. And of course, that's going to be increased when you have a sort of surveillance state. And maybe in the future, a certain level of living in a surveillance state will exist across the board in all countries, because everything is filmed and there is surveillance video of everything, even if you are crossing the street. I remember going to London so long ago, and people were saying that it was one of the most heavily surveilled cities in the world, and this is a long time ago. I think it's been surpassed. If anything, I feel like we might have that in the United States as well. Why is I feel like lately when I've been speaking, I feel like my tongue is not connecting to my teeth. Like united is like, it just wants to the United States. So I feel like maybe in the future there will be what we would consider and what people would consider 20 years ago a global surveillance network. But we are still human beings, and so it is very difficult to live a perfect life, to not be shamed. Think about that one nonfiction book called So You've Been Publicly Shamed that came out about 10 or 15 years ago. But that kind of situation, that kind of scenario would not only play out for people who are in the public eye, but would increasingly play out for just the average person living their life and minding their own business. Helen Phillips explores all of this so poignantly, so beautifully. Make sure you pick up the book. I just realized I need to be standing to the side. I just realized I started getting into the middle and I really should be standing to the side, so we'll pretend that. Make sure you join us for this AMERIE'S Book Club selection. The book is out now. Buy it wherever books are sold. And I think I mentioned this in the live chat sometimes, but definitely check out bookshop.org if you're able to. You're able to go on there and then put your order in and move the money to whichever independent bookstore that you would like to support. It doesn't matter where you live. You go into bookshop.org and you'll see what I mean. Be sure to join Helen Phillips tonight at the end of the month as we chat about the book, and follow the hashtags, hashtag Read with Amory, hashtag Amory's Book Club, follow the Instagram at Amory's Book Club, as well as my personal Instagram at Amory to keep up with the read. In the meantime, happy reading. Just in time. Yes, my darling. How's it going?
The scissors.
Scissors? What do you need scissors for?
Cut something.
Cut something like what?